Welcome back, art lovers, to Art by Shades, where we talk about self-love, art, and how to turn your art into a business. Today's episode, we're going to talk about how you can make yourself a DIY paint stand. So for other artists, I know the issue of finding what paint you have in your inventory is a big issue. You end up buying a lot of the same paint, and it gets frustrating because then you have 15 of the same paint and didn't realize that you do. So I'm going to go into a little quick video about how you can make your little DIY renter-friendly paint stand. So here you see me adding some little Jenga blocks from the dollar store onto a plank that I got from Home Depot. And I'm trying to make these as equidistant as possible. I'm going to use some wood glue to attach them to the board. And what I really want to do is attach a pegboard to it so that I can actually hang the paints on the stand. Now, I'm trying to get these things as evenly placed as possible. Measure twice and cut once. So I'm trying to just rearrange these things here. I wanted to make this as cost effective as possible, and this was during high pandemic time, so a lot of materials were hard to come by, so I decided to go shop at the dollar store and Home Depot to get some of these things. I decided I was going to pick up some wood glue, a staple gun, and these blocks and a pegboard and just go ham. When I was designing this pegboard, I wanted to make sure that I'm not drilling too much into the walls of my apartment. So I wanted to go into make this as renter friendly as possible without drilling multiple holes into the walls that I'm not sure I'm going to stay in this apartment for too long. So this paint stand is actually designed to lean against something, or lean against the wall, and that will just make it portable and very renter friendly. So here I am adding the glue to the blocks and trying to make sure that they stick. I leave the glue for roughly 20 minutes or so that everything dries. So once I lined up my pegboard, I wanted to drill the pegboard into the pegs, but what I found was that the drill was not having it, so I decided to go with my staple gun, which worked. So since I couldn't find a white or traditional wood colored pegboard, I decided I was going to paint it, and I got this idea from the Canadian DIY queen, in my opinion, DIY Danny, where she painted her workstation pegboard, and I thought that looked really cool. So I decided to personalize mine with that in mind. So here I am trying to add some white paint as my base so that I can start painting the picture that I have in mind for this pegboard. I had to do several coats of this because I decided to use acrylic paint, which was definitely not a great idea, but I'll get into why not when I get into the section of what I would do different if I were making this again. If you think that this content has been very beneficial so far, please drop a like or a thumbs up in the comment section, or even just subscribe to my channel. So you see that I'm laboriously working on putting coat after coat on this pegboard, and it was just not having it. No matter how much white I put on there, it was still looking very see-through. But I did my best, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna work with what I have, and that's what I did. So I wanted to paint an Afro Queen on my pegboard, and uniquely enough, it's gonna come out like looking like somebody that I didn't actually plan for, but in the end I ended up loving it anyway. So as you can see here, I'm trying to put the purple background and her afro in there, and the acrylic paint is still not really percolating on there, but I think it adds its own unique flavor to it. So if you squint and you tilt your head really well, it ends up coming out looking like Lupita from, Black Panther and everything. And if you squint a little bit, you can actually see it a little bit. And this is the end product of what she looks like. So if I were to do this again, I would definitely do a few different things. First off, I'd probably try my hardest to find a white pegboard. I think that was a lot easier. During the pandemic, it didn't allow for, too many options, so I got what I could. But I would try to start off with a white one. Secondly, I would not use acrylic paint. I kind of tried to use what I had on hand and some extra throwaway paint that I knew I wasn't going to use for most of my art. Just use some acrylic paint and it should be fine. It was not fine. What ended up happening is that the pegboard is very porous, so it tended to absorb a lot of the acrylic paint. So it required several coats just to cover up majority of the brown in the background. If I were doing it again, I would get some paint samples just for this little project from Home Depot. So they have little sample packs that you can get if you wanted to try out paints. I would do that. It would be a lot more vibrant and the colors would blend a little better, as well as make it look more professional, for lack of a better word. So I would not go with acrylic again. I would just get paint that you would use for like your walls or something like that. And the next thing that I would do would be to just kind of concede and just put the thing up on the wall. It was a lot more convenient than buying all these extra wooden pieces just to make sure that it leaned on the wall. So I would just kind of just put it up on the wall. One benefit that I did see in not putting it up was that I had rearranged my art studio a few times. So moving it around or having the ability to work around it was definitely a plus, but it made me have to structure how I have my room as far as what type of stands I could lean it on. So that limited me a little bit, but I may have been able to save a little bit of money not buying the board and the extra little pieces just to be able to lean it against something. But overall, I did this project in a weekend, and it was a nice little fun project for myself, and now I can find all of my paint, so that's a plus. Let me know in the comment section if you would do the same, if you think, painting it was a nice little touch to make it a personal item, or if you would have just left it brown or whatnot. That's all I have for you today. See you next time.